AI never sleeps, and this week has been absolutely insane. We have an AI that can talk to dolphins. This AI can search and analyze years of Street View data. We have some new open source image generation tools, plus a new character animation tool. We have our first ever humanoid robot marathon. We have a new comic colorizer, plus a new AI video model. OpenAI releases their most intelligent models yet, o3 and o4-mini, and a lot more, so let's jump right in. First up, we might not have AGI or catgirls yet, but we do have an AI that can potentially communicate with dolphins. So Google just announced DolphinGemma, and this is an AI that can help scientists understand how dolphins communicate with each other. So here are some impressive things it can do. DolphinGemma can run just on a smartphone. Specifically, the researchers here ran it on Google Pixels, and it can analyze dolphin sounds in real time. Plus, it can even generate new sounds that are in dolphin language. This can potentially help researchers understand dolphin language faster and more accurately. For example, we can identify patterns and potentially depict the meanings behind various dolphin sounds. So here's how they trained the AI. First, the researchers recorded a ton of dolphin vocalizations, including whistles, clicks, squawks, buzzes, and more. Basically, the researchers recorded all the sounds that dolphins could make. And this huge dataset of dolphin noises was then processed using Google's special audio technology called SoundStream, which basically converts the sounds into tokens, which can then be fed into an AI model. It's kind of like when we prompt ChatGPT, our prompt in English actually gets broken down into tokens to be fed into the AI model. Well, SoundStream basically does the same thing, but for audio data. Next, all this data was then used to train an AI model called Gemma. This is one of Google's smaller, lightweight models. So from all this data, this AI model learns to identify recurring sound patterns from dolphins. But not only that, afterwards, this AI can also be used to generate new dolphin-like sounds. The nice thing is this model is only around 400 million parameters. This is not even a billion. So it's lightweight enough to run directly on mobile phones like the Google Pixel. Another awesome thing is Google plans to open source DolphinGemma this summer. So researchers could potentially take this and fine-tune it to process the sounds of other animal species as well. You know, forget about catgirls or humanoid robots or AGI. If we could get AI to legitimately understand and talk to animals, that would be even cooler. I would really like to see this become a reality. Anyways, I'll link to this page in the description below for you to read further if you're interested. Next up, this tool is also super powerful, and it's free and open source. So it's called UniAnimate-DiT, and this is a plugin for Wan2.1, which is probably the best open source video generator out there. It's free and uncensored, and if you want to learn how to install this and run it locally on your computer, see this video. Anyways, back to UniAnimate, what this does is you would input a photo of anyone plus a reference pose video. So this is basically a video of someone else moving or dancing, and you can easily convert this into a pose skeleton video like this using some other free tools like ControlNet for video. Anyways, what this UniAnimate tool does is it animates whatever character you have with this reference pose video. So here are some examples. Here's yet another example where the dude is a bit thicker, but you can see it's able to transfer the motion over to this character pretty consistently without any warping or deformations. Now, instead of 3D Pixar style characters, here's an example of a realistic photo. And again, everything looks pretty consistent. She is indeed moving according to the reference pose video. Notice it even transfers the movements of the hands and fingers. And yes, this even works with animals or other non-human characters. So, you could potentially input a photo of your pet and get them to dance like this. Super cool. Here's an even more impressive example. So note that at the start, we actually see the back of the character and then she rotates to the front. But notice that for the input image, we don't actually know what the back of her looks like. So the AI kind of has to guesstimate what the back of her looks like. Very impressive. And notice how as she moves around, her jacket also moves really naturally. The nice thing is they've released everything already, so here's their GitHub repo, and if you scroll down, here are all the instructions on how to download and run this locally on your computer. Notice that the minimum VRAM for this is 14 gigabytes, so it's not too bad. You don't need a 4090 to run this. All the instructions are on this page, so I'll link to this GitHub repo in the description below. Next up, this AI is also super useful. So it's called InstantCharacter by Tencent, and this allows you to add any reference character to your images. So let's say you have this reference photo of a woman and you want to generate her in another image. Well, this AI does use Flux as the base model. This is one of the best open source image generators out there. And so you can just plug this image through this AI, and then with Flux, you can generate her playing a guitar like this. And notice it preserves all the details of this character, including her face and her outfit. Plus, if you use a Ghibli LoRa, then you can generate this character but in Ghibli style. Or here's another LoRa in a different anime style. Here are some more examples. So let's say this is your input character. Well, you can generate a photo of her playing piano in this concert hall, or you can generate a photo of her taking a selfie with sunglasses in a busy street. Notice that it's super accurate. It transfers the hairstyle, the outfit, even, these ribbons on her arm super accurately across both photos. This is one of the most accurate character transfer tools we have right now. Here are some more examples. So at the top are the reference images. If we plug this through the AI and get the character to be in a kitchen holding a spoon and drinking soup, here are the generations. It doesn't matter if it's 3D or anime or realistic, it generates everything super accurately according to the appearance of the reference characters. Here they are wearing sunglasses in the rain, and here's what you get. Or here the character is lying on the sofa, and it's Christmas, and here are your generations. And here are a few more examples. Again, note how high fidelity everything is. Especially these characters over here, they have quite a complex appearance and outfit, but it's able to transfer everything from the reference image very accurately. Now, if you compare this with other leading character transfer methods, notice that this new one, InstantCharacter, is even better. So at the top are the reference images. If we get it to play piano in the Royal Opera House, here are the generations from InstantCharacter, and then the second row is the generations from GPT-4o, and then the third one is from Bytedance's Gmung. Now, while GPT-4o came close, I would have to say InstantCharacter does even better at portraying the characters from the reference photos. Anyways, if you scroll up to the top of the page, the good news is they've already released this. Here we have a free Hugging Face demo for you to try this out online. So here's where you would upload an image. Here's where you would enter a prompt. And then you can also select different LoRa's here. So you can select none to set this to a realistic style, or you can set this to Makoto Shinkai style or Ghibli style. So for example, let's upload an image of this dude, and then for the prompt, I'm going to write a boy is riding a bike in the snow, and then let's set this to Makoto Shinkai style, and here's what we get. And you can see it looks exactly like the dude in the reference photo, but in anime style, and he is riding a bike in the snow. Very impressive. In addition to the Hugging Face demo, they've also released a GitHub repo, which if you scroll down contains all the instructions on how to download and run this locally on your computer. All the links are up here, so I'll link to this main page in the description below for you to read further. Next up, Nvidia releases a pretty cool tool called PartField. This AI can very accurately segment different parts of a 3D model. So here's how it works. It can take in all these types of 3D inputs, and then it would run it through their AI model in order to segment the 3D model into different parts. So here are many different examples of 3D models that it has segmented. Note that for the most part, the segmentation is indeed very accurate. And this is extremely useful for downstream applications. So for example, if you want to apply a different texture to one part of the model and a different texture to another part of the model, then this would come in really handy. Or if you want to turn this into a model which you can animate, for example, if you want to move the arms and the legs around, then it also helps if you first segment the model into different parts. Now, if you compare the performance and generation time of this new model with other similar 3D segmentation tools, note that this new one is not only the most accurate, but it also takes the least amount of time to run. So this is super efficient. And if you compare this new model with other model segmentation tools, note that this new one is the most accurate. By the way, the rightmost column is the ground truth. And here are some more comparisons. Anyways, if you scroll up to the top of the page, the nice thing is they've released a GitHub repo, which contains all the instructions on how to install this and run it locally on your computer. If you're interested in learning more, I'll link to this main page in the description below for you to read further. Also this week, Alibaba releases a new Wan2.1 model. This is a completely free, open source and uncensored video generator. And this new model allows you to upload one image as the first frame and one image as the last frame, and it would generate a video in between these two frames. So this gives you ultimate control over your video generation. Now, this model is already out for you to download and use locally. So on their GitHub repo, you can see they've released this. So if you click on it here, it contains all the instructions on how to run this on your computer. Or alternatively, you can also try this for free using their online platform. So you just need to go to Wan.video, which I'll link to in the description below. And then over in AI videos, simply click on image to video. And here you can turn this start and end frames feature on. So what I did first was I generated this initial frame, and then I went into Google's AI Studio and using Gemini 2.0 Flash, with its image generation capability, I prompted it to add the back of another character in the foreground on the left, like they are talking. And here's what I got. So I'm going to use this as the start frame and this as the end frame. All right, and then for the prompt, I'm just going to write they are talking, and then I'm going to turn on this inspiration mode, which is supposed to enhance expressiveness of the video. And then you can also turn on the sound effects feature if you want. For this generation, I'm just going to leave this off. And here's our generation. Very nice. So indeed, it does start with our initial frame, and then it adds a character walking into the scene and talking to the person. This is such a powerful tool that really gives you control over your video generation. Anyways, the links and all the instructions are available on this main GitHub repo, so I'll link to this in the description below for you to check out further. In other news, believe it or not, we have a half marathon for humanoid robots that's happening right now in Beijing as I'm recording this video. So here are some scenes from the actual marathon. There are around 20 humanoid robot companies from all around China competing in this marathon. And of course, one of these companies is the infamous Unitree. So first, here's a video of the Unitree team rehearsing their G1 robot for this marathon. And then here's the G1 actually running the marathon. Here's another humanoid robot called Kwafu from Leiji Robotics, also rehearsing for the marathon. And this looks even more impressive, at least in terms of running. Apparently, here it has completed a 5K practice run, which is really impressive. But I think the star of the show could be this one. Look at how fast this robot runs. This is pretty crazy. So this is called the Tiangong Ultra, and this is a 1.8 meter tall humanoid robot from the Beijing Humanoid Robot Innovation Center, and it seems like this is the first to reach the finish line. So props to this team for creating a robot that can run such a long distance. And while this event might not seem like much right now, you can see like a ton of robots are pretty bad at running or even walking, this is actually pretty exciting. I think in the near future, as technology improves, we might start to see sport competitions or even Olympics for humanoid robots. Let me know in the comments if that would be something you're interested in watching. Speaking of AI tools, here's the perfect AI to help you create and publish web apps. Say hello to HostSinger Horizons, the sponsor of this video. If you've ever dreamed of building a web app but got stuck on coding, deploying, or juggling different platforms, HostSinger Horizons is about to change the game. It's the all-in-one solution designed for anyone looking to launch an idea fast. There's no complicated setup, no third-party tools, and no tech headaches. From hosting to domain management to designing the website, everything's under one roof. Plus, you're covered by a 30-day money-back guarantee. Getting started is super simple. Head to the landing page using my custom link in the description below and choose your plan. It takes just a few clicks to sign up, and once you're in, you'll see this AI-powered builder where the magic begins. I simply type my app idea right in this AI chat box. So let's try a habit tracking web app. Within seconds, we have the first version of the web app. And I can edit and revise the site further using this built-in AI assistant. So for example, let's add a dark mode toggle. Perfect, so now you can see there is a light mode and dark mode. And with one click, I can launch this live. That's how easy this is. It's fast, beginner-friendly, and completely risk-free. Use my code AI Search and the link in the description below to get 10% off your first month of HostSinger Horizons. Next up, this tool is super useful. So it's called Efficient Line Art Colorization with Broader References. And so they shortened this to Cobra, which is a bit of a stretch if I must say so myself. It seems like they're just randomly picking letters from this title. Anyways, this is a new state-of-the-art AI that can color black and white comic book panels. So here's how it works. You can plug in a ton of reference colored images of characters. So here are some images that the user has uploaded, and then you would input a black and white panel like this, and the AI would automatically color the panel based on your reference images. So here's one example, here's another example, here's yet another example. Note that this has a huge context window, so you can plug in over 200 reference images of many different characters for it to remember. So here are some more examples. Let's say you have this input black and white comic panel, and then you input these colored reference images. Well, this AI will automatically color the panel like this. And notice it gets all of the colors from the characters correct. Here's yet another example. So here's the input. And then if you add these reference colored images, the AI will automatically color the entire comic like this. Here is yet another example. Now, if you compare this with other comic colorization tools, note that this new one, Cobra, performs a lot better. So on the far left is your black and white image. If you input these reference images, note that IP adapter just could not get the colors correct. Color flow came close, but notice like the eye color of this woman plus the hair color of this woman is not really the same as the reference images, whereas Cobra nailed it. It got the eye color and the hair colors correct. And by the way, this is the ground truth. So this is what it should actually look like. So Cobra came pretty close. Here is yet another example. So here's the black and white image. Here are the reference images. Note that Cobra was the only one that was able to get all the colors of the characters correct. And here is the ground truth. So this looks almost identical to the ground truth. Super impressive. Now there's even more you can do with this. So after inputting some reference images and getting it to colorize some black and white panels, you would get this. But let's say you want to change the colors of certain elements in the photo. Well, you just need to click on that particular area and then choose your desired color, and it would automatically recolor that part of the image. So here's another example. Let's say next you want to change this part to green. You would simply click on this part and then select green, and here's what you get. Or let's change this part of his shirt to beige and then this part to blue. And then let's also change his inner t-shirt to blue. And here's our result. Notice the color change of his shirt here and over here. So it's really easy for you to just edit colors of these comic panels just with a few clicks. Now, because this is essentially a colorizer for line art, you can also use this to colorize line art videos. So here's an example where if you have these colored reference images, and then you have this line art video. Here you can see it's broken down frame by frame. Well, you can just plug it into this AI to colorize each video frame like this. So I think this AI would significantly boost the productivity and efficiency of manga studios and anime studios. And if you scroll up to the top of the page, everything is out already. So here's their GitHub repo. And if you scroll to the middle, it contains all the instructions on how to download and run this locally on your computer. All the links are up here, so I'll link to this main page in the description below for you to read further. Next up, this AI is really cool. It's called Sonic by Tencent, and this can create animated videos of people talking just with a single photo and any audio clip. So here are some examples.
When I was young, there was an amazing publication called the Whole Earth Catalog, which was one of the Bibles of my generation. It was created by a fellow named Stuart Brand, not far from here in Menlo Park, and he brought it to life with his poetic touch. This was in the late 60s, before personal computers and desktop publishing.
And then here's another example.
What would art be like without emotions? It would be empty. What would our lives be like without emotions? They would be empty of values. So a famous classical poet said, "We hate and we love. Can one tell me why?" Catullus. Science does not answer why questions. Science answers how questions.
So it goes on and on. This is quite a long generation of over 40 seconds. Here's another example.
When I was a kid, I feel like you heard the term, "Don't cry. You don't need to cry." Crying is the most beautiful thing you can do. I encourage people to cry. I cry all the time, and I think it's the most healthy expression of how you're feeling.
And again, this one also goes on and on. It's quite a long generation. It does lip sync to the audio really realistically. Everything looks pretty natural. It does make the character blink and even move their head around, so they're not just fixed in one position at all times. The nice thing is this can generate super long videos of up to 10 minutes long, depending on the length of your audio clip. So here's an example that's 1 minute and 42 seconds long. I'm not going to play you the whole thing, but here's a short snippet of this.
On this long journey of life, we often encounter moments of confusion, feeling as if we are shrouded in fog, unable to see the path ahead clearly. But please believe that this is just a temporary loss in our life's journey.
You want to know how I got these scars? My father was a drinker and a fiend. And one night, he goes off crazier than usual. Mommy gets the kitchen knife to defend herself. He doesn't like that. Not one bit. So, me watching, he takes the knife to her, laughing while he does it.
And if you compare Sonic with other leading competitors that can also animate an image with audio, notice that Sonic, which is on the far right, just animates the photo a bit more accurately and realistically.
我都1年没吃苹果了，到超市偷了一袋苹果，大家觉得这要不要道歉？你1年没吃苹果，你就能偷苹果啦？啊，吃水果是必需品还是奢侈品？水果还是奢侈品的。
Here's another example.
某个夜晚碰巧独自走回家，早就习惯袖手旁观的路人，评头论足就算不上不忍。相似的动机，重叠的阴影，一时的痛心，又麻痹自己的侥幸心理，也无法预判最要何时找上门。
So even with a really tricky and fast-paced Chinese rap, notice that Sonic was able to lip-sync everything super well, whereas the other ones couldn't really get the lip movements correct. Plus, notice this isn't even a realistic photo, so Sonic also works with other types of images like cartoons or 2.5D or 3D. Here's a comparison with another leading image animator or lip-sync tool from Bytedance's Gmung. Let's see how Sonic performs compared to that.
I was appointed 6 months ago, and the more I've spoken about feminism, the more I have realized.
Very nice. As you can see, Sonic does animate Emma Watson a bit more naturally and realistically according to the audio. The nice thing is this is already out, so if you scroll to the top of the page, they've released a GitHub repo, which in the middle contains all the instructions on how to install it and run it locally on your computer. However, note that this does require an Nvidia GPU. They've tested it with 32 gigabytes of VRAM, but some users have reported to run it successfully on like a 4090 with 24 gigabytes. Anyways, the link is up here, so I'll link to this main page in the description below for you to read further. Also this week, xAI has rolled out some major upgrades to their Grok chatbot platform. So similar to the update from OpenAI last week where ChatGPT now has long-term memory so it can remember your past conversations and give you more personalized responses, well this week, long-term memory has also been added to Grok. So it can now remember details from all your past conversations and give you more personalized answers and advice. So if you want to check if you have this, on Grok.com, which I'll link to in the description below, at the top here, click on your user icon and then click Settings. And then over here in data controls, here is where you can enable or disable memory from your chats. So here I have it enabled, and then let's prompt it with something like this. Tell me what you know about me so far. Oh my god, this is pretty freaky, so it pretty much nailed it. I do have some enthusiasm for content creation. I'm really into crafting engaging YouTube titles, especially for AI-related content. And yes, I did recently post a video about Kling 2.0. I do like to emphasize things like cracked or out of control or insane, etc., etc. And by the way, at the bottom here, you can actually click on this button to see which chats it has referred to give you this answer. So a pretty useful feature. Now, in addition to this memory feature, they've also released Grok Studio, which is like a split-screen canvas where on the left side, you would prompt the AI further to make edits, and on the right side, it would show you the document or code or preview of whatever you're working on. Note that this is basically the same as OpenAI's Canvas feature as well as Claude artifacts. In other news, Microsoft released Mineworld this week. This is an AI generation of Minecraft which you can play in real time. Note that there's no predefined worlds or designs. Nothing is set in stone. This AI generates new scenes on the fly based on the player's actions. So here are the specs. Mineworld can generate 4 to 7 frames per second, allowing for real-time interactions depending on what keys you press or actions you take. Now, 4 to 7 frames per second isn't great, but this is actually a big deal considering that previous AI game simulators are too slow to be even played in real time. And this AI can understand and generate a lot of actions, such as opening doors, placing rocks, or jumping, or chopping wood, or walking backwards, just to name a few examples. And how this works is they used a visual action autoregressive transformer, which is basically an AI model that takes in both the gameplay, in other words, the screenshot of the game, plus the player's actions, so what keys are they pressing, and it takes both of these as input in order to generate the next scene of the video game. The nice thing is you can try this out right now. So here's their GitHub repo. This contains all the instructions on how to download and actually run this on your computer. Notice that the checkpoints, or basically the models, are pretty tiny. The smallest one is only 300 million parameters, so you could probably run this on a consumer grade GPU. Anyways, I'll link to this GitHub repo in the description below for you to read further. Next up, this AI is super interesting. So this is by Stanford and Google DeepMind, and they call it Visual Chronicles. And this analyzes huge collections of images to find trends and changes over time. It can answer questions like what's changing in a city and actually pinpoint the locations and times of when these changes took place. So for example, if you ask it when did a juice shop open at a storefront, then it would actually search through years and years of location and street view data and search for changes. When did a storefront change into a juice shop? And note that doesn't have to be called juice shop, it can be called juice bar or whatever, basically a store that sells juice. And here's just one instance that it found. Here's another instance where it changed from deli and grocery to Joe the Juice. And so it can pinpoint when and where all these changes occurred in a specific location. In this case, they were looking at New York, and this was seen 318 times, and it even maps out all the locations where this has happened. Super useful and powerful tool. Or here's another example. You can ask it, when and where was the support of an overpass painted blue? And it would again search through years and years of street view data and find when an overpass was painted blue, which it has identified over here. Here's another example where it has identified this instance. And then when you map this all out, you can see that it's basically this area that was painted blue, and it has detected this 481 times. And you can even go a step further and ask it why, and it would know to search from news sources online to find the relevant reason, which in this case, it was because the Central Freeway got this 31 million paint job project. So a super useful tool, especially if you need to identify multiple instances of something happening at a street view level. Here's another example. So if you prompt it with the crosswalk had its marking changed to red, notice that it has detected all these instances where the crosswalk has changed to red. And it has seen this 519 times. And if you click on one of these, you can actually see the crosswalk marking change to red over here. So here's another example. Let's click on this one. And again, you can see here's the before, here's the after, and here's the red crosswalk. Here's another example. Let's say you want to investigate where and when solar panels were added to the roof of the buildings. So here are all the instances. Let's click on this one, and then let's expand the photo. And here you can see indeed, here's the before and here's the after, with the roof having solar panels. Let's go back and let's click another one. And again, you can see before this roof does not have solar panels. Afterwards, there are solar panels. So this is an insanely powerful tool if you want to do like spatial research or investigate trends. Imagine how long it would take a human to search through all this data throughout time and find all the instances where a house added solar panels to the roof. It would take at least weeks, if not months. So here are some other examples of the things it can detect. So it can also detect when a green bike lane was added to the front of a building. So here's an example of that. It can also detect when a storefront added tables and chairs outside. So here's an example of that. It's able to detect even something as small and minor as a bike rack. Notice that this is quite obscure, especially in a low quality photo that you see in Google Street View. But it's able to detect these new additions very accurately. It can also detect whether a parking lot has added a fence enclosing. So here's an example, here's the before, here's the after where it has added this fence. You can even detect when and where security cameras have been added to light poles. So here's the before without the security camera, and then here's the after. And of course, you can also specify conditions for your search. So you can force it to only search within a certain time frame. And the crazy thing is you can also narrow down your search based on semantic conditions. So instead of just retail stores or storefronts, you can get it to identify juice shops or bakeries or banks or grocery stores. This AI obviously has so many useful applications, for example, urban planning and development or environmental monitoring. Unfortunately, there's no indication whether they will release this or not, but nevertheless, if you're interested in reading further, I'll link to this in the description below. Also this week, Bytedance unveils a new video generator called Seaweed 7B. By the way, Bytedance has been releasing a ton of cool stuff lately, so props to them. As the name implies, this has around 7 billion parameters, so it's pretty tiny, but it's able to surpass the performance of much larger models with more than double the parameter count like Wan2.1 and Tencent's Humanoid. So here are some examples. It can generate 720p videos at 24 frames per second, apparently in real time. So the generation time is pretty damn fast. It's like 62 times faster than competitors at generating the video, which is crazy. And it can create videos of various lengths, resolutions, and styles. Plus it has image to video, which is what I think the most important feature. So you can upload an image as the start frame of the video, and this gives you a lot more control over how the video should look. So here are just some examples of this in action. And not only can you just set the image as the start frame, but you can also set a start and end frame. And this gives you total control. You can basically get the AI to generate a video in between those two frames. So on the left, we see an example where we start with a photo of the universe, but then the end frame is this eye. Plus, you can also upload an image of a reference character which you want to inject in your videos. And instead of just faces, you can also upload reference objects. So for example, here are a pair of runners, and you can generate someone running with these shoes. Or here is a fur coat, and you can generate someone wearing this fur coat in what appears to be a super windy Arctic setting. And you can even combine multiple reference characters or objects or backgrounds in the same video. So if we upload these 3 photos, well, we can stitch all of these together into a video like this. Another feature which I know a lot of you would like to see is that it can generate long videos. So here it says Seaweed can generate a single shot lasting 20 seconds without any extension technique. With the extension technique, it can generate videos of up to a minute long. And here's another really cool feature. It says Seaweed is capable of generating both audio and video together. And the audio is generated to sync to the video. So here are some examples. Very nice. So you can see it syncs to the footsteps of the man and the tiger in the background. Anyways, that's all we know for now. They have released a technical paper, which you can read further if you're interested in the technical details, but there's no indication whether they will open source this or not. For now, I'll link to this main page in the description below if you're interested in reading further. And last but not least, OpenAI released 2 new models this week, o3 and o4-mini. These are the smartest models that they've released to date, especially in the fields of coding, math, science, and other STEM-related subjects. Now, there are several subtle differences between o3 and o4-mini. So here it says o3 is their most powerful reasoning model that excels at these STEM subjects plus visual perception. I'll show you some benchmark scores in a second. In contrast, o4-mini is a smaller model optimized for fast, cost-efficient reasoning, but it's also good in math coding and visual tasks. And it actually performs better than o3 in terms of these competitive math benchmarks. So let's go over the benchmarks right now. In terms of AIME competition math, o3 and o4-mini outcompete the predecessor o1 and o3-mini. Now this is a pretty insane achievement. They're already scoring in the 90s, so they're pretty much saturating this benchmark already. And this is even more impressive. So this is competitive coding. Note the huge improvement of o3 and o4-mini compared with the predecessors o1 and o3-mini. This is a huge margin. And then for GPQA Diamond, which is like graduate level science questions, again, o3 and o4-mini do outperform the predecessors, but this time not by too much of a margin. Here are some other benchmark scores for visual reasoning. This one is particularly impressive, so this benchmark tests the AI's ability to analyze scientific figures. And this is a huge improvement compared to o1. Here is SweeBench, which tests the AI's performance on software engineering, and again, it's a huge jump of around 20%. And then here are some more benchmarks regarding instruction following and agentic tool use, which we'll go over in a second. Now, while these comparisons are great, first of all, this is coming from OpenAI themselves, so they might be a bit biased, plus they're only comparing with their own models. So what about the best model out there, Gemini 2.5 Pro? So if you look at some other independent leaderboards, here's one called LiveBench by Abacus AI, and you can see that both o3 High and o3 Medium and o4-mini High score higher than Gemini 2.5 Pro. And this includes reasoning and coding. In terms of mathematics and language analysis, then Gemini 2.5 Pro does perform better. Here's another benchmark chart by Artificial Analysis, and you can see that both o3 and o4-mini are ranked in the top spots in terms of intelligence, just slightly higher than Gemini 2.5 Pro. However, that being said, if you compare the price per 1 million tokens, note that o3 is insanely high, much higher than the other leading models. And then o4-mini is over here at $1.9 per million tokens, which is actually cheaper than Google's Gemini 2.5 Pro, which on average costs $3.4. The really exciting thing is both of these are multimodal models. So not only can it understand text, but it can also analyze audio and images. So they released this new thinking with images capability, which not only gets it to analyze images, but it also does so in multiple chain of thought steps for higher intelligence and better answers. So for example, let's say you upload this photo of a rough sketch of a quantum electrodynamics problem. Well, you can prompt it to solve this problem on the left. So here's its thinking process. First, it analyzes the image, and then it tries to crop the image so that just the question would fit within the image. So after a few attempts at cropping, it gets this, and then it's analyzing the image further by zooming in and then analyzing what this means. Note that this is a pretty messy drawing, so the user is definitely giving it a tough time. So after analyzing the image, it interprets this, and then it proceeds to solve the quantum electrodynamics problem. And then here's the solution, which is verified to be correct. Now remember, I mentioned earlier that both models also have agentic tool use capabilities. This means that they can autonomously choose and use a wide range of tools to accomplish complex and multi-step tasks. So for example, they can use one tool to analyze images, another tool to search the web, or another tool to code up a website. These are all different tools that are specialized to do certain tasks. And so both o3 and o4-mini have the ability to just automatically pick and use whatever tools are at their disposal. Plus, they can do so in parallel. In other words, they can execute multiple tools and actions at the same time to get things done even faster. So here's an example. Let's say you prompt it with this. I own a hotel chain in Lisbon, Berlin, and London. I plan to expand to a new country in Europe and a city in Asia. What factors best predict success? Pull regional travel data, economic statistics, and hotel occupancy rates. Analyze trends visually and recommend ideal expansion locations. So it proceeds to search for and analyze all of this data. It's using these tools in parallel to search the web for relevant information, and then it goes on and on and on. This is quite a long process in order to find all the information it needs. And then it's using this tool to use Python to analyze the data. And then afterwards, it plots all of this out into nice charts like this, and then it gives you a comprehensive report. Now, note that this isn't the first time we've seen such thorough agentic tool use capabilities. In the past few weeks, I've featured Manus, which is also an agentic framework, and it can also pull data from the internet and synthesize it into a nice looking report. Or an even more impressive example, which is slightly better than Manus, would be GenSpark's super agent. So here you can see I'm getting it to find growth and engagement trends for the top Twitch streamers, and it has synthesized a ton of data from these influencers from all the main social media platforms, and it has compiled it into a super thorough report. Not only did it give me a report, but it also gave me an incredible presentation. If you're interested in learning more about GenSpark, definitely check out this video where I go over some pretty crazy examples. So anyways, back to OpenAI's O3 and O4-mini. That's just a really brief summary of what they can do. Note that I'm preparing a full deep dive on both these models to show you some impressive things it can do and some secret abilities, so stay tuned for that. It's probably going to come out early next week. And that sums up all the highlights in AI this week. Let me know in the comments what you think of all of this. Which piece of news was your favorite, and which tool are you most looking forward to trying out? As always, I will be on the lookout for the top AI news and tools to share with you. So if you enjoyed this video, remember to like, share, subscribe, and stay tuned for more content. Also, there's just so much happening in the world of AI every week. I can't possibly cover everything on my YouTube channel. So to really stay up to date with all that's going on in AI, be sure to subscribe to my free weekly newsletter. The link to that will be in the description below. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.